for any of you that would like a stress relieving technique, that you go back to the first week that I did this, or the first day, and you do the elongating Ujjayi breathing, because the impact of that on the nervous system is quite profound, right? And we talked about the fact that we have this nerve, a vagus nerve, that trails down to the heart, and every single time we exhale, we send an increased level of messages to the heart, reducing the heart rate and the blood pressure, and that causes a calming response. Now today, we are going to be looking at something that can help us with resilience, that can help us to increase something that we call heart rate variability, which I'm going to express in just a moment. There's such a profound relationship between the nervous system and our breathing. And this is because moment by moment, we need oxygen in order to survive. And so any change in the manner of our breath is picked up by our brain and has an impact on how it operates. Now, one of the things that we can do, that we can all do, regardless of how we're feeling right now, is to slow down our breath. And this has a variety of benefits. First of all, fast breathing is picked up by our nervous system as a sign that we are under distress or that we need to mobilize energy. Whereas slow breathing actually indicates to us, to our brain, that we are relaxed. But there is another added benefit. When we breathe slowly, as a general rule, what happens is we bring the breath into the lower lungs, and the lower lungs are actually more able to admit oxygen into the body. They have what we call greater compliance, a greater ability to stretch. And stretch is actually associated with the opening of our alveoli, our little air sacs, and allowing oxygen into the blood. So why is this so important? Well, when we have full level saturation of oxygen in the blood, we not only use this O2 in order to create energy, because it works and is synthesized with glucose to create the molecule we call ATP for energy, but it allows us to have a little bit of a surplus. And just a tiny level of surplus at a cellular level does kind of magic for the cell. It can undo, for example, some of the deleterious effects of oxidative stress that occurs through the process of constantly breathing in a way that is not conducive to well-being, and also at the same time reduced oxygen levels. So there's a real benefit of slowing down the breath. And this is the case, again, even if you are feeling unwell, even if you are feeling breathless, even if right now you're having to go onto a respirator. So it's a value for all of us. And coming back once again to the Ujjayi breath, or the ocean breath, this kind of breathing technique affords us the ability to slow down the breathing more than other types of breath techniques on their own, or just natural breathing. So I want us for just a moment, for those of us familiar with it, to use Ujjayi breath to slow down our breath. And for the rest of us unfamiliar with it, I am going to demonstrate it for a moment just on the exhalation. And then I'm going to speak a little bit more again about how we slow down our breath at a particular rate and the effect of that particular rate. So again, if you know how to do Ujjayi breath already, please engage it now on both the inhale and the exhale with the view of elongating your breath. For those of you new to Ujjayi breath, it sounds like this. We're going to do a natural inhale, and you exhale. And you can do this by starting first with exhaling through the mouth. So place the hand in front of you. Look at your beautiful shiny face this morning. Inhale naturally out. And keep doing that. Inhale naturally. One more time. Inhale naturally. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with how to do it through the nose, place your hands on your throat, and rather than doing a reverse sniff, imagine that you are breathing out of your throat. Inhale naturally and exhale out of the throat. Inhale naturally. Exhale out of the throat. We're all going to do this, eyes downcast or closed, just slowing down the breath. Slow down the inhale. Slow down the inhale. Slow down the messaging into the brain. Indicate to the brain through your breathing that you feel relaxed and safe. And in kind, your brain will actually evoke more parasympathetic or relaxing response. So do this for just another moment together before I introduce the particular rate. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you, and you can have your eyes closed, and you can just be listening to me slowing down your breathing, something called the coherent rate. But before I do, I want to talk about heart rate variability. So what is heart rate variability? Heart rate variability is the variation in the rate of the heartbeat. Now we have sympathetic nerves, or nerves associated with activation, that feed from your spinal cord to the sinoatrial node of the heart. And they release in your transmitter norepinephrine, or you might know it as noradrenaline, and they cause speeding up. And then we have our vagus nerve here. It is releasing acetylcholine to the same region, and every time it does, it relaxes the speed of the heart rate. It slows it down. So when both of these systems are strong, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, what we tend to have is this process of resiliency, of moving back and forth. And in daily life, what it means is that we can mobilize energy when we need to meet a task, and then when we don't, we can calm down. So why 6 breaths a minute, or why the coherent rate, which is inhaling for a count of 6 and exhaling for a count of 6? What does this do to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves and heart rate variability? So, when we breathe in and out long, because of the relationship between breathing and the messaging to the heart, we enhance the signaling on the inhale of sympathetic nerves, and we enhance the signaling of parasympathetic nerves on the exhalation. And for some reason, when we breathe at 5 breaths a minute, inhaling for 6 and exhaling for 6, we maximize this heart rate variability. And not only does this afford us more flexibility, as I said, but somehow the maximization of heart rate variability in a given breath session actually allows physiological parameters to change. In fact, we find that at that rate, that we have completely different brain activity, and that brain activity allows a processing of material and a shifting in circuits. One of the reasons we think this happens is, so the vagus is sending that long message to the heart, and that is somehow being aligned with the normal oscillations in blood pressure that we always have around the aorta region. And when they match up perfectly, it's like this gong, boom, and suddenly we've hit it at exactly the right note, and the reverberation is more powerful than it could have been at any other time. So breathing at 5 breaths a minute allows this maximization of this resiliency and this flexibility, which we can feel in a specific practice, which we can actually build on to develop cognitive flexibility, neurological flexibility, and cardiovascular flexibility. So with this in mind, I'm going to count you to breathing at 5 breaths a minute, inhaling for 6 and exhaling for 6. For some of you, that is going to feel too slow. You are going to struggle to inhale that long and exhale that long, and that's fine. Do not push if that's what's happening for you. Instead, just wait until the next cue to inhale or exhale. And naturally, by not forcing your breath, you will be afforded the ability to do it. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But as soon as you push or pull your breath, you will undo the calming benefits and that really emphasized increase in heart rate variability. So again, if you're not only breathing right now and just listening, come back to the breathing and I'm going to count you down. Let's do this together. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep counting on your own now. Inhaling naturally if you're new to Ujjayi breath. Exhaling Ujjayi breath, whether you're new to it or whether you have practiced it many times. Continuing on your own. And remember, if you cannot inhale all the way to 6, keep counting so that you still have the rate. And just wait for a moment. It's not breath holding, it's waiting. And then exhale after you've got 6. And then inhale for as long as you naturally can with the Ujjayi. Wait if it's not till 6. And so on and so forth. Just this. There are many chime apps actually that you can also use for this, but in a situation where I'm using a speaker system, the reverb is too strong. But you can, after this call, find them so that you don't need to count. Continuing to count. An interesting piece of information is that it takes a minimum of 3 minutes to shift a physiological state, even for the most seasoned practitioner. But magically, it only takes 1 minute to increase your heart rate variability at this rate. You may not be shifting your physiological state overall yet, but that happens for almost all human beings within a 1 minute period. We're just going to count for 1 more moment together. Okay, you can continue a little bit more, as I'm just going to mention one other thing before we come into the meditation. I advertise this as strengthening the lungs, although the primary focus of today is actually strengthening the entire system, the cardiovascular and the neurological. But this also strengthens the lungs, because when you inhale for 6 and exhale for 6, you naturally are going to be increasing the amount of air you take into the lungs. You're not supposed to take a strong, deep breath. When you do, when you increase that, you have more pressure on the lung walls. You also need to be able, over time, to control that very slow movement of air in and out. And that control, combined with the pressure, is another way to strengthen the lungs. So this technique has a myriad of different benefits. Now, I just like to take you from that place of moving towards your heart rate variability to self-awareness through a short mindfulness meditation practice. It's usually best if you let go of controlled breathing during it, but if you're finding solace in it, breathe in any way that is meeting your needs in the present moment. For the rest of us that want to let go of the pranayama, the breathing practice, just notice the natural breath as I'm speaking. It is a hard time. Many of us are scared. We have anxiety. And yet, there remains the possibility, even in the midst of all of this, to be able to find quietude within the mind. We do that by training the mind to come back to the present moment, to not be overwhelmed by the fears that are naturally arising in the mind. We do that by noticing, with the breath as the anchor, all of the thoughts that the mind is having, directing us into places of proliferation and coming back to just the simplicity of the breath. The simplicity of the breath. So as you inhale, say to yourself, inhaling, inhaling. And as you exhale, say to yourself, exhale, exhale. As you inhale, inhaling, inhaling. And as you exhale, exhale, exhale. And thoughts will arise, because they always do. And you simply mentally note, thinking, 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 and then come back to the breath. The trick about mindfulness practice is to be truly intrigued by your breath and also the nature of what your mind and body are doing in relationship to experience. Curiosity, true intrigue with the nature of you, can override anxiety and fear. In fact, it's listed in Buddhist texts as a necessary component for being able to see through the mind, curiosity. And if the mind is darting all over the place as you're watching the breathing, just be intrigued by that. Be gentle with that mind. And then bring it back again to the inhale, the exhale, the breath that is always there for you. Again, coming back, thinking, 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 just to the breath. Remind yourself, there has been no time before where it has been more important to learn to balance the mind, to see through the nature of thought, and to be able to find a place inside solace and refuge. And we can all do this, no matter the circumstances of our life. We can all train our minds to do this. In just a moment, we're going to be drawing the lecture portion, the directed portion, to a close. And I am going to open for questions. You can put your hands up by going to where it says participant. And if you put your hand up and I see it, in the order of hands up, I will answer as many questions as I can within a 15-minute period of any nature related to this, obviously. Just a few things before I do that. If you really liked this technique called coherent breathing, thus named, because it creates coherence in so many different physiological systems, allowing them to almost reconfigure themselves, and we say in physiology, re-entrain themselves. I do a practice on Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 of coherent breathing, where we do meditation, movement, this breathing, and we speak together. So you can always look online on the Minded Institute website and sign up for that. And for those of you that signed up for the Anxious Brain 2-hour lecture and embodied practice today at 2 to 4, I look forward to seeing you. That got full so quickly, so I listed another one next Tuesday, the 31st of March, again from 2 to 4. It's on the website, and those spaces are also going like hotcakes. So I do suggest, if you are interested in it, that you sign up now. And lastly, I have decided, along with leaders in mind-body medicine around the world, to launch an initiative to help everybody at home struggling, as well as an opportunity to help people in this time to transform their lives because they're at home. It's going to be called HealthFlix. It launches next Monday as a soft launch, And then the full launch will be the following week. And it is entirely free. It will be on Zoom and then live streamed on YouTube so that as many people around the world that want to learn how to benefit from this time by calming their minds down, cooking differently, reflecting differently, will have that chance. So I hope all of you share that. Now on to the questions. Does anyone have a question? You can raise your hand if you do. No questions? Okay. Ah, Michael. Michael, you always have a question, right? I'll unmute you. Go ahead, Michael.
Raise hand.
Michael, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. What was that called? Was it called Health Links? I didn't quite get the word.
It'll be called HealthFlix. And it's a global initiative, and you will recognize lots of the names involved.
I still didn't quite get the word. I'm sure you'll be putting that in a message to us.
HealthFlix, kind of like Netflix. HealthFlix.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. Mariana Taverner, can you unmute yourself and share next?
Hi, I was just wondering if you could say more about the outward breath and breathing through the neck.
Breathing through the neck. It's just a way of people who are new to doing Ujjayi breath of not reverse sniffing out. Because what happens generally, if you need to teach people very quickly, they do this. And that is not deriving any benefit. So I've learned over the years that if I have people place their fingers at the neck and actually imagine that they're exhaling out of here, that they're more readily able to access the style of Ujjayi breath that allows the elongation of the exhalation and slightly applies more pressure to the lungs, which again has the value of potentially opening up the alveoli for oxygen saturation.
Okay, and when you're breathing in, are you breathing in more than you would normally breathe in, or are you just keeping it at the neck?
No. It's actually important for relaxation-based practices, unless where we're doing the elongation of the exhale and inhale for the coherent breathing, that you're just naturally inhaling. For those people that are well-versed in Ujjayi breath, they can do just a normal Ujjayi breath, but they shouldn't be trying to elongate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mariana. I think our next question is from Julie Keeble. You can unmute yourself, Julie Keeble.
Hi, Heather. I just wondered, can we access these last three practices through Zoom or anywhere else? I missed the first one.
So we've put it on Facebook. I forgot to record the first one, but the second one is on Facebook on the Minded Institute page.
Right, okay, lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
And this one will be as well, right?
Yes, and I apologize everybody for the sound. I bought this expensive microphone and this morning it stopped working and all the shops to buy everything have closed, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I have a second microphone.
The sound is fine, the sound is absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Estella Alvarez, you're on next.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for this morning. I just wanted to ask you, what resources can I find to learn more about Ujjayi? I mean, I do know about Ujjayi, but there are a lot of benefits that you spoke about this morning that I didn't know about, and I'd like to look a bit deeper into that.
That's a great question. I mean, I've written loads about that. You can try and look on some of my blogs. I've also written about it in my book, Yoga and Mental Health. To be really honest with you, I'm not sure who has spent an extensive amount of time looking at Ujjayi breath. It's been like the core of my whole practice. Let me think about it, and if I find things, I'll post it on my personal and Minded Institute page, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Lisa, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Welcome, Lisa. Take yourself off mute. Lisa? I can't hear you. There must be something wrong with your mic, Lisa, because I see you're not muted, but I can't hear you. Do you want to type your question in the chat, and I'll come back to you in a second? Jean Tallis, please take yourself off mute.
Hi, hello Heather. I wanted to ask, how often do you recommend we do this sort of breathing every day?
So the coherent breathing, I mean, there's no definitive answer to that question. It has to align with your window of tolerance. How long can you manage? In the beginning, I say about 7 minutes, build up to 10. And then ideally, for maintaining your health and well-being, 25 minutes a day. For those suffering from really high-level anxiety, when you can, 25 minutes a day, twice a day. Yeah?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you.
Lisa, I saw your question about registering for rewiring the brain. You can send me a direct email. I know it's working because we already have loads of people sign up for next week's. And of course, today's is totally sold out. If you're having trouble, just email me. In terms of app, I think there's something called the breathing app. I use what's called Respire One, but it is something that you have to buy unless you have Spotify where it's free. Those would be my recommendations. Kunal Sharda, I hope I pronounced your name right, and I apologize if for any reason I did not. You're up next.
Thank you for this morning. Good morning. It was really nice. I'm just wondering, did you say anything about breathing from your belly first and then chest, or it doesn't matter?
I didn't say anything about this because, well, I did in the very beginning. I said that breathing into the lower lungs is going to promote more oxygen saturation because the lower lungs are more compliant and can allow more air, therefore, and oxygen to pass through the pulmonary wall. And I talked about how breathing low down is an indication to your brain of calm and breathing higher up, the reverse. And then we went into slow breathing. And naturally, by engaging slow breathing, we will be bringing the breath down into the lower lungs. So we don't necessarily have to try. However, in the next segment that we're going to do, I'm going to be focusing specifically on diaphragmatic breathing.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Do you have any other questions about it?
No, thank you. It's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ah, okay. Yes, I'm Sally. I thought I'd raised my hand some time ago, but never mind. You said last time something specific, which I now can't remember, about people who suffer with asthma. Could you tell me how, this is not for me, but for somebody close to me, how safe is it to do the Ujjayi breathing we've been doing today and some of the breathing we did last time?
Well, with asthma, always it is a graduated level of intensity. So it depends on how acute somebody's asthma is. But one of the things that is important to know is that paradoxically, when we calm down the nervous system, there is a slight hardening within the pulmonary wall. The smooth muscle is not as open. And so we do run the risk in some of these practices in creating a sort of breathless experience for certain people. However, because of their parasympathetic nature, for people that do not have acute asthma, and I find for myself, because I have asthma, but only in relationship to pathogens, it's usually fine. However, for individuals where they have kind of chronic experiences, they do need to be careful of some of these controlled breath practices. But it has been found, not in research studies, but just clinically, that if people with asthma inhale and use some of these practices, imagining that they're breathing from like their nose to their toes, or breathing from their nose to the tip of the spine and then out from the spine to the nose, that this seems somehow, and we don't know why, to override that breathless experience. But each person needs to be managed based on their own needs. To keep people really safe, you can make sure that they have their inhaler nearby. Because there are so many questions for asthma, I probably am going to do an asthma-focused session, not here, but one of the workshops that I do online, where people can ask me loads and loads of questions. But just to note, with asthma, the slow breathing with no Ujjayi breath added will still be helpful. And that is the case even for individuals who are right now lying in beds critical with COVID-19. I did a session for the staff at Imperial that are in the COVID ward. And before I did, I contacted some expert respiratory MDs. And they said to me that even in this very critical state, everybody can slow down their breath and benefit from it. I know that was a long-winded question, but I thought it was a really important one. I mean, not winded question, answer, sorry.
Thank you very much. That was very clear and interesting. And the only other thing I wanted to ask was, is Facebook the only place that I can, because I'm not on Facebook?
We are trying to download it into YouTube, but the thing is that with a 30-minute presentation and then 45 minutes of questions, it takes forever to load. So we're just trying to figure out the software right now. But we intend on putting it on our YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. No other questions? If you are, you can just, oh, Chris Anderson, go ahead. Chris? I can't hear you, Chris. Do you want to type your question, Chris? Chris, do you want to type your question? Because even though I can very clearly see you're not muted, I can't hear you. It's happening with a lot of technology right now. We're needing to figure it out. But if you type it, I will answer it. If I don't see Chris's question, I just want to note how meaningful it is for me to share this time with you. I am going to be continuing these seminars as often as I possibly can. I have a new intake for my cohort, my 2-year cohort in yoga therapy training starting on Thursday. So this week might be a little bit of a challenge, but I will try and fit something in. I want to build this together. And I think it's nice to wake up in the morning and to practice and to learn. The Spotify breathing app again is Respire 1. It was created by Stephen Elliott. Thank you so much, everybody. I wish you a lovely day. Try to balance your mind again. I know there's a lot of fear for many of us, but there is a place of calm and solace in all of our minds that we have access to. Be well. Take good care. Oh, one last question, one last one, because I was just ending. Florian, go ahead and unmute yourself, and that's going to be the last question we're going to go. Florian? You unmuted and remuted yourself. There you go, Florian. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. A quick question. Maybe it makes sense to clarify that raising your hand is not a physical action. There is a button you can click for the people so that you can see it.
Yes, yes. You're right. Maybe on the next session, I will make sure to clarify for that for everybody. I did say at the very beginning that if you go under participants, you can raise your hand, but I didn't clarify that it was something you click. I will do that. Thank you for that feedback, Florian.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Hi, Heather. Well done. You're doing great work.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
you. Bye, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. You hear them all together, you know, it's chaos. Yeah.
The meeting now, we're all going to go off at the same moment.